Hello everyone, thank you for joining us here in the lab for this panel, and thanks to the Digital Innovation Pavilion for giving us a space to work on this topic of Senegal 6.2 project that started in COP27 in Sonaged. And we're still in the process and getting the opportunity to our participants and meet at Hedera, public portfolio manager from Sonaged, Mr. Wes Calendar from the Hedera Foundation, and myself, Rafael Berry from Straatos, to have like a bit of an open discussion about very impactful projects that is taking a little bit of time to structure, but is getting in its operation stage, and giving an opportunity of giving a window of the complexity and the challenges and the opportunities of going through this Article 6.2 mechanism in order to capacitate infrastructure in Senegal that can lead the way for other projects, both in Senegal and in the region, to get scaled up. So on my side, I am interested in the parts that we can help to capacitate as regards to digitalization and collection of the data to facilitate the life cycle of the project. And I will also have the opportunity to introduce Ms. Diallo so that she can give like an overview of the project. But I will also give the chance for Wes to talk a little bit more about like the digital infrastructure that is also at the root of this project, so that like we can meet both like the physical world and also the digital world together for impact. I just want to give like a quick introduction. I was there in Sonaged at COP27 when this project was basically signed between three different parties. One of them is the Sonaged, which is the waste operator in Senegal. The other one is the carbon project developer named unpack, and the third one was Carbon Growth Partners, which was the financier that was covering this project. As you know, for Article 6.2 projects, you have bilateral agreements that tie two countries together in order to make this project happen. One of the issues is that the financing of the project is still relevant to either the national authorities or private financing in this case. There was also a part that was a little bit different, and that at this time we called ITMO, which is fair ITMO. ITMO is the name that we give to Article 6.2 projects, which means internationally transferred mitigation outcome. And the fairness in this project was standing out because each participant, so both Sonaged, Carbon Growth Partner, and unpack, were actually allocating 5% of the credit they will receive to impact projects meant to the community that were around this project. I think it's important also to note that like the project is about solving some waste treatment issue, and that like when you actually remove waste from the landfill, you do affect communities that are already having a participation to it. So you need to find like alternative programs that helps and support the community to find other opportunities to have them. So on that, I would like to give an opportunity to my four panelists to introduce themselves and to have an overview of the project status.
Thank you, Rafael. My name is Hedera. I'm from the National Company of Waste Management in Senegal. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you to Hedera for this fact. Actually, in Senegal, as you say, we are developing a project, methane emission reduction project, in one of our biggest city in Senegal, named Touba. So in this city, we need to organize a lot of events. So we invite a lot of people. That's why we have a lot of organic waste we produce in the city. In the NDC of Senegal, the methane emission is the major source of emissions. So we would like to develop this project. We are developing currently this project in order to reduce methane emissions. And our partner, actually our Carbon Growth Partner, which is the investor of this project, and Algot. And actually we have Straatos who help us in the digital MERP. So we will share after maybe the overview of the project, the different components of the project, and also the results we are expecting for this project.
Thank you very much, first off, the Digital Innovation Pavilion for having us. I'm Wes Manning with the Hedera Foundation. We're very proud to be a co-host here for the entire COP30 and for enabling a forum for conversations about digitalization, some of the challenges, the opportunities, and working with a series of partners. The Hedera Foundation, our mission from a climate sustainability perspective is to bring the balance sheet of the climate to the public budget. And we give out grants and potential funding. We're very blessed to be joined by Straatos as well as the customers like Sonaged, who are enabling digital environments integrity so that when we enable an this project like Sonaged is pursuing, we can have digital environments integrity from methodology down to every single data point in the process. And we do this using a tool called Hedera Guardian, which through its use across the market is called the world's largest library of digitized and open source methodologies. And we're very happy to see that maturing, especially through this very awesome Compost initiative. So with this work, we're excited to see what Sonaged is building, how that project progresses, and we're excited to see how an opportunity as different parties work together. It's all about something. Straatos helping build a community around the project with Sonaged to enable the project in Senegal to achieve their goals and their outcomes.
So I think there is definitely many different components to this project to make it happen. Here we actually see like the original signature of the project in Sharm el-Sheikh, and I want to go a little bit before that. Prior to this, there's been an initiative led by Alcott in order to do a feasibility analysis with the Click Foundation from Switzerland. The Click Foundation basically capacitates funding in order to have an overview of what could happen if the project was put in place and basically put a ceiling price for the transaction of this project. And following that, also had a feasibility study that they closed with the Senegalese authority of Sonaged, and getting the necessary authorization to basically offer it to potential investors that would be interested to it. And I think this is one of the first points that maybe we can start to talk about the difficulties of implementing an Article 6.2 project in a context where you actually need to bring the whole financing up by whatever means is necessary. In that case, we have a strong interest from an Australian investor who was definitely interested of the potential of this project and also the opportunity of potentially scaling it up and giving a chance to go on this pilot. What is the complexity after that is to make it up. And I think it's quite interesting to see, in all honesty, how long it took, and maybe just to fast forward to now, I would believe, I'm not in a full capacity to answer, but the project is finally about to start, and 2026 is really going to be the development. Actually, maybe an overview on that, and perhaps also in your perspective. At that time, I was working with Alcott on the digital spectrum, so I had a little bit a view from a window, but definitely from inside.
So since we signed the MOU between Alcott, Carbon Growth, and Sonaged in 2022 at the COP at Dubai, so many things have happened actually. So we have developed a lot of activity actually. I will share a little bit about this activity. So as I said previously, our NDC is the repercussion of our NDC is as you can say here. In our business as usual, if we continue to produce methane, we will continue to participate in climate change. So we have developed two options, the conditional option and the non-conditional option. In our conditional option, we will achieve our NDC goal up to 65% if we have investment from partners. And in our conditional NDC, we will achieve our goals amount 11%, around 11%. So methane is the major source of emission with 91%, as you can see here. And most of this methane came from open dump site in Senegal. We have around 145 dump sites in Senegal. The methane, the program aims to set up recovery unit in 20 sites in Senegal, but actually we have a pilot in Touba. And we will product biochar and biogas and compost, actually. Touba, as I said, is one of the biggest cities in Senegal. We organize around 100 events every year. And in these events, we are receiving 1 million people every year, and we are producing food loss and a lot of organic waste actually in Touba. That's why we choose this site. And the project has 5 components. The first one is the technical, the establishment of the technical and technological organic waste system, because in Senegal we didn't do sorting actually. All the waste are in the same trash. So it's important to develop what we call the organic plan in order to collect waste from household, from hostel, and from all producers. And the second component is the construction of the design and organic waste treatment. We have done a little benchmark in around some countries, and we chose Mexico to buy our technology, compost unit, organic waste treatment facility. And the third component is the implementation of the MERP system. It's all about our panel today. In the carbon project, it's important to develop the MERP system in order to prove that we will reduce the emission, we will reduce the GHG emissions at the end of this project, to prove also what is the amount of electricity we use during the project, the amount of water, and so on. The fourth component is the designing of an innovative business model. As we say, it's the first Article 6.2 project in Senegal, and the carbon credits will be sold to the foundation actually. The last component is the promotion of the community involvement in the circularity. We need to raise awareness with the community to help them to solve their waste. The first activity we have done after signing the MOU is to do what we call characterization, in order to determine to know the exact type of waste we have in Touba, and also the quantity of waste. And the results are here. In Touba, we produce among 752 tons of waste per day, and we collect among 457 tons. And in all the waste, we have 184 tons of organic waste. And we have used 2 types of methodology actually. What we call the waste-wise city tool is the methodology from Real Habitat, and the French methodology we call model. So and the result are that we produce, yes, I already said the amount of organic waste we are producing per day in Touba. We have designed also, the second activity is to design a method for the organic waste management chain. Okay. We use what we call geographical system information to design this organic waste chain, and we have identified 51 hostels in Touba, also 70 hospitals, and we try to collect all this waste from all the cities you can see here. And we construct also some points de repère pour le regroupement normalisé, point de rupture de charge. We have also constant transfer station in order to collect waste from household and so on. We can go. Next slide, please. Okay, so we identify also 51 markets in Touba, and also 2,038 institute and school. Touba is a religious city, so we have a lot of schools, a lot of students, and we have to identify this quantity. And administration, we have also 41 administration and how we can say magazine, shop. Okay, we identify also 21 shop in Touba. Next slide. Okay, this is the collecting system map in final, the synthesis of the collecting system map. We have our infrastructure. Yes. In yellow, we have the infrastructure developing by Sonaged in order to collect waste before transporting this waste in the big CIBD, big center. This center have for 19 hectares, so on, so something like that. So this is the intake of our camp. It's better for me to speak French, but I try to continue to speak in English. This is the camp to collect waste from all these cities, the restaurant, school, market, and shop, administration and shop. We will transport the waste into our station collection, and after that, we will transport it to the final destination in order to treat the organic waste into compost. Next slide, please. The third activity we have done in Senegal, actually, construction of the platform. Before the technology will come, we have to construct the platform. It's 1 hectare area where the technology will be implemented. Next slide, please. We have also done the stakeholders consultation. In all this in gold standard criteria, it's important to do what we call stakeholders consultation. And this stakeholders consultation really needs among 20 organizations from Senegal, local and national organizations, from municipalities, women government, Ministry of Energy Ministry, and Agriculture Ministry, and we present the project, and all the stakeholders are happy to have this project in Touba and in Senegal in general. The results of this project are that we will produce in 50 years 157,000 tons of emission reduction, and we will produce 3,756,000 of organic waste, and will reduce at long per year 10,000 tons CO2 per year, and create 100 employees during this project. Also, we will the revenue sharing, the income. Previous slide, please. Okay. The income of the project, as you can see, 15% of the revenue, the income, will go to Sonaged, 25% income will go to carbon growth, 50% to the local communities, and 10% to alcohols. We are facing main challenges during the development of this project. The first challenge was the administrative procedure. In Senegal, the Article 6.2 procedure is not yet implemented. So administration are not aware on how we can do the process, administrative procedure. So it takes time for us to develop and to develop this part. The second challenge is the pickup of the project. The carbon market is not, we cannot identify earlier the revenue or the result of carbon market project. It takes a lot of time, so 50 years and so on. So this is the challenge. The overselling issues and the seller market leadership. Maybe during the discussion we can go deeper. Thank you.
Thank you, Raja. That was like amazingly exhaustive. And definitely 3 years compacted in 10 minutes is a defeat. So I think what is perhaps interesting to go through is like what are like the different steps that you experience that has been like blocking this project to go faster. And obviously there is many different types of risks also that are like somehow born on the side of the investor. And that's where like it creates like all chain of like you know friction points that are like difficult to deal with. If I remember well at that time also there was a different somehow uh, political party in place and there was like some friction that was always coming from there. But that I would say we can put it also in the fact that the basket of like law that was necessary in order to implement the project was speculative and not fully defined. I don't even know at that stage if it is fully defined. And so that's already reflecting on something where a lot of people in this group had to take some initiative in order to push forward this project without even knowing what would be the future for them. And I remember just one side, for instance, which is that originally, because there was no existing structure in place, the project developer was actually the project proponent. And that it came across time that that was maybe not like the most valid decision, and that made me delay the project by several months because I think now it's the Sonaged, for right reasons, who is the project proponent with the carbon the carbon standard, the gold standard, right? So these are like small examples of things that obviously could have been done right from the start, but definitely needed to be adjusted. And I think it's just in the spirit of cooperation that you need to find the alignment. And for me, what has always been like very um, difficult to somehow sympathize is also the amount of risk taken by the investor. They have to put the money in order to capacitate everything in advance, and somehow the return to investment is still like unclear with many different factors. Then it's a question of like risk assessment, and somehow the only structural things that you have is like the trustworthiness of the actors in place, and the fact that like there is also like potentially a buyer. If you manage to do everything right, that can be like a quick foundation in this case. But I would be interested to see first if maybe you have any comments to do on that. I know Wes, we visited together the CITP site, which is the site in Senegal that was ready to welcome the machine back in 23. And obviously that was like a little bit like in the waiting on that outside. We have to wait for basically like things to happen in order to implement the digital. But like I would like to know what is your opinion about like these external factors when somehow from the digital side, obviously, like we work on like collecting data and somehow how frustrating also it can be about not being able to implement this and iterate on the solution that you're doing.
So one thing I'll say is the market's maturing. I think we've been a little bit of a lull in the last few years, and there's some lessons learned so that we can take away from others. Specifically with the selection gold standard as a standard for Sonaged, there's opportunities as well. Specifically the digital pilot program, I think Sonaged may end up benefiting from to propose different innovative digital solutions that are very specific to Article 6.2. We digitize methodology like the one talked about here, the AMS3F, specifically methane, a methane focused methodology. What we're able to also do is define which boxes the data goes in. How are we actually meeting what the standard prescribes? And from a challenges perspective, the first challenge is understanding which data needs to be collected to be eligible for a project to get through the issuance. One of the opportunities we see from a risk management perspective is when you digitize a methodology, you're actually digitalizing the real world process. You start with what's prescribed, but then you're also mentioning, oh, well, where is this data coming from? When you go to put a project description document in place, that's not the end of the road. It's actually going through validation and verification all the way through monitoring 2 issues. So even as we're waiting for the compost machine, there has been market progress, which I think Sonaged will certainly benefit from. At the same time, Sonaged probably can take some lessons learned from others to make sure that this process really gets going as faster. I would argue that, one of the big benefits is actually working with Straatos and saying, well, what are the best practices from other solutions in Senegal that meet the expectations both of the folks on the ground, but how we translate that out. And I almost would say if we have a simplified the technological angle, it's really just a translator of context of what's happening in the project to the communities that are investing. And those communities are equally important to make it possible.
Thank you, Wes. So now I think I would like to jump in time and maybe go in the future. At the present, I think everything finally managed to get aligned. I believe the machines are being constructed, they're on their way to Senegal. Possibly they will be received maybe for Christmas, and that would be a great gift. Or maybe next year, but like at least like 2026 will be the start of the operation. And as much as we planned, like also we participated in, for instance, with the MERP working group of those standards, looking at like the way that they want to receive the data. We will still have to adjust with like what they expect or like what they basically want to get like certified on their side and get a level of confidence that the information that they receive is valid and ready to be processed. But I think to turn it into a bit of like a more positive side, I would like to ask the participants of this panel about like what they want to see. And I will selfishly start with myself. So on my side, so basically Straatos is like an infrastructure that is an operating system for carbon projects. The goal is to provide project components like Sonaged with tools that support them in the collection of all the elements that are part of the project and having the capability to channel them to relevant stakeholders. The first stakeholders that we try to satisfy with the standards, and even then we realize that like a project design document that summarizes a project is still only covering maybe 10 to 15% of the data that is collected along the life cycle. We want to be able to provide like more information that can help also the project to identify room where they can be even more performant than what we defined from the start. So our vision for this project is to be able to equip it with both systems that can collect data from human, like people on the ground, but also like leveraging like Internet of Things sensors that can help to facilitate the work of the people on the ground so that they can work on all the things that are the project. So my dream is that actually like the whole map that we've seen of Touba can definitely help to support faster, more streamlined collection of the waste. And when the truck or the tricycle arrives at the waste processing center, they go on a weigh bridge. This weigh bridge actually calculates the weight of the truck at the entry, that after that will be compounded to like the one where it exits, so there will be a difference and have to show how much waste has been delivered. But then the waste will be basically delivered to like another form of like weigh bridge, where we will also possibly have the possibility to analyze this waste with possibly AI in order to have like also like some documentation, photographic evidence of every single batch that is actually processed. After that, I believe there will be sorting, there will be capacitation of the waste that is going for this processing, and there is a range of like data that is mandated by the methodology that will also be able to be captured. Some of them, for instance, is the amount of water that is going to be used in order to create the right mix for the compost to be processed. Another one will be the amount of time, for instance, that it takes for it to be processed. And at the end, what we want to be able to have is some kind of like a serial number for every batch of compost that is produced out of this operation. Further to that, there is in the business model, I believe, a way to deliver those bags of compost as they are actually meant to be distributed to different participants, either in the agricultural sector or other like green garden in the city. And we want to be able to provide like a full stream of data that helps to be channeled to first the standard, so possibly, and that has been discussed with almost all the MERP working groups that we've been, help to facilitate the issuance of the ISMO in a more like faster manner, so that potentially we could get to like quarterly issuance in order to start like getting the return on investment on the faster process that exists at the moment, which is like only when the verifier comes, which is normally at least 2 to 3 years, and then possibly like help to support like the initiative on the ground so that they can improve the performance and have a way to replicate this project. We obviously, if we have gone through like this whole process, we will be able to duplicate it in other places and get like a positive feedback loop in order to adapt it to the challenge of every place where it's really good. So that's my kind of like dream that I would like to see. But any way you would like this to see this project operate?
So actually, I think that achieving the result or objective, achieving the goals of this project will be a way to scale up in the 20 other sites we have identified actually. And in the regarding the MERP opportunity, we can if we develop the MERP side of this project, we can also achieve our NDC goal in Senegal. We can also provide more data in waste sector in order to encourage other projects to do the same, or other countries in Africa to do the same thing in waste sector. So I think that this collaboration will help us to finalize this project. I hope so in 2026, and to produce our first compost product, and in order to sell it with producers. The other side or other part of this project we didn't mention is that waste sector is a cross-cutting sector. Actually, we are trying to negotiate with Ministry of Agriculture in order to sell compost and improve food security and agriculture sector. So it is important also to mention this part of this project, and we need to have a quality compost. So the MERP indicator have to also determine the quality of the compost, and to prove that this compost can be used in landfill, with the farmer and so on.
So there's a lot that I think we can hear about, but I think one of the most important things, part of this project that I'm very excited for is after visiting Touba. One of the images that really stuck with me was the community that actually interact with the way waste is collected and processed today versus how it will in the future. I remember very vividly as we were visiting this site initially before those facilities were set up, and before this new area was fully room with children backpacks and umbrellas, specific plastic recyclable and sort and plastic waste for our areas, and the part I think is important is this needs to be communicated to the outside world in a way that people can really see the difference that this project is making. Because the opportunity here is to not just stop that specific activity, but to provide help facilities for the people who have to interact with those. Even something as simple as having shower facilities that may seem really small, but it's really important to enable people to have a better way to deal with the waste. And when we talk about the data and digital elements, this isn't just a complex facility. It's a facility that enables better healthcare, better revenue to the community. And being able to bring a structure and this data is shared should also tell you when you're interacting with it, it's not just income, it's sustainable development or Senegal in a way that previously wasn't done before, in a way where people can just have health concerns. If you stood on it's because the methane kind of also good. It's 10, 20 degrees hotter in some places depending on the day. In a place that's already maybe 100 US, 35 to 40 degrees someplace in summer. And in my mind, my dream is to see the compost facility not just come to fruition, but for it to be an economic hub, whether it's through selling compost, but also providing better economic opportunity for those who are African. And so the dream is to see the project be to fruition and for data to be a vehicle to actually tell the story of how Senegal is developing in a way that shows everything beyond the carbon, because the carbon is maybe the least interesting part. You know, the methane reduction is part of it, but it's not the story that, you know, sometimes we don't have to tell, but it's actually how people interact with this project that's maybe the most interesting part of the discussion.
So it's really up to making carbon finance work for people and planet, right? And I just recall actually like 2022, and I had the opportunity a few months before COP27 to go on a trip that was like organized by the West African Carbon Market Alliance and also OLPERT and a non-profit organization that was working for carbon market fairness. And at that time, it's the first time I went to Senegal, and I also got to meet a few people from Sonaged, and especially Idrissa. And we had the opportunity to visit projects, and after that, we go into like discussion, open, and also design thinking. We worked on different pillars, and there was something that we call Idrissa's dream, and it basically was his intervention during one of the panel where we were saying that all this was very nice, but basically his dream was that digital actually could empower both the capacitation of the project and make sure that they were beneficial for the community at large. And well, I still dream, but like I feel the dream is starting to come to reality, and our goal is really to make it work. It just takes a little bit. But at the end, I think it's a question about like how, you know, you have to be resilient in this market. We've been going through like a little bit of like downward spiral, but now we're bouncing back and solidifying with like higher integrity from all the stakeholders. And I want to somehow, even though I'm not sure I'll make it to Australia, but we'll see, or maybe Turkey or COP31, but my dream would somehow be to bring up that Sonaged would bring up actually a bag of compost, and that we have the possibility to see the whole elements that created the bag of compost, and also like next to it some rituals that I hope, and I know that's going to be the case, at one point some other nations from the global north will have to fight for, because there won't be enough of it. So yeah, on that I think it would run up the story quite well, and I hope the three of us could be sitting there, but like with a bag of compost and maybe even something that would like sprout from it. Okay. Do you have anything to add? Yeah. So we would be like very happy to open the floor to some questions if there is any. Wow, fantastic.
Give him this one. Give him this one.
See, that's technology. It's still working on it.
Thank you. So you said that one of the main constraints of the project has been the administrative side of Senegal and its infrastructure and its legal process around Article 6. So can you explain a little bit more how do you expect to pass these barriers? Are you working with the government of Senegal? What's the process in that sense?
So I will answer in French, it will be more clear, and Raphaël will help me to translate. So, quand je parlais des barrières administratives, ce que je voulais dire par là, c'est que dans le cadre de ce projet, on devait acheter nous-mêmes à la Sonaged l'unité de compostage via les fonds qui avaient été envoyés par Carbon Growth. Mais notre commande de marché public n'était pas alignée avec le contrat d'investissement qui avait été signé à la base, qui était un contrat d'entente directe. Or, notre commande de marché public parle plutôt de contrat public-privé. Donc ça a été une barrière. Et pour transgresser cette barrière, il a fallu m'envoyer l'argent à le
So the administrative barrier is coming from existing laws in Senegal, where in order to actually enable an entity like Sonaged to purchase an equipment, they have to go through open request for proposal. Whereas the original contract had been built on the premises that the funder would actually capacitate the project developer, which that was Compost, to actually purchase directly the machines from the supplier. And so that created like an issue where basically Sonaged was the one to purchase the money. They had to give back the money to the original funder in order to process through adapted solution to be aligned with the legal requirements, which were legal requirements that are coming to like open market for administrative issues, but were not tailored and adapted to carbon markets. So basically, there was no framework for direct capacitation of a project that is funded to be aligned with the existing regulation that is in place with the legal system in place. So that I mean, it may seem very trivial, but how long did it take?
5 months. It took 5 months, 1 year only to go through this barrier. So it takes a lot of time to go through. Et la deuxième chose par rapport à la barrière administrative, c'est que concernant l'article 6.2, aujourd'hui, le Sénégal a déjà le cadre réglementaire du carbon market avec le ministère de l'Environnement. Donc ça, c'est un avantage. Donc actuellement, oui. Donc par la Compost, ils l'ont développé. Donc maintenant, le Sénégal a développé le cadre réglementaire pour tout ce qui est carbon market avec 6.2. Ça aide beaucoup maintenant pour la participation.
One thing that helps a lot is that now Senegal has a carbon framework for Article 6.2, which was not the case in Sharm at COP27. And I mean, this project was also facilitated to make that happen because there was pressure basically to make it work. So that was like somehow this project that helped to enable the need to make sure that the carbon framework is coming through. So that was also definitely about it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. First of all, congratulations that you brought the project to this point. Our company has developed actually 3 projects, major size in different countries in the Middle East and now also North Africa. And I can confirm that this takes like 3 to 5 years to set up the needed system so that it's allowing for this kind of financing tools. It is a long way to go. And well, there is not much you can do about it. And, I think if I listen to what you said, it's even rather fast to come to this point. It's frustrating for everybody involved, and you have to have a long brief to sustain the project for that time. But of course, it's very good at the work. And that is the question I have. What do you do with the residues which are not going to the composting plant?
We have what we call soft composting technique.
Technical center for burial.
So, tous les résidus qui ne peuvent pas être transformés sont enfouis dans le centre au niveau du CIBD. Donc, c'est un centre de 95 hectares, 95 hectares. So, we have the place to bury all the rest of the waste we can't treat. And also, we will produce what we call lithia. The lithia helps us to fertilize also soil, the biofertilizer, the water came from the treatment of organic waste. It helps us also to fertilize soil. So we can use also this product from the compost technology. We'll do also plastic segregation in this project after in order to produce also plastic ready.
Thank you very much for the amazing presentation. First of all, a consideration. It seems also from the consideration of the colleague that No, Article 6.2 is coming more from the market rather than from the regulation in the state. That's the first thing to assess. What I want to ask are two questions. First to Hedera. So, did investors in capacity building for promote the regulation system to implement a project on Article 6.2? And the other question is to Rafael. Actually, the market is still on development. Also, here the negotiation on Article 6 are okay. Some documents are quite close, but the framework and the rules are still ongoing. Are you a way to adapt your system also to the changing regulation and so on and so forth?
Okay. So, first, I think it's important to point that going through this friction and barriers is very formative. It helps actually to answer to many things that sometimes do not see the light of day. And as frustrating as it is, it helps to reinforce the system that we do. And also in what Ajahn was explaining from the start is how do we make one project and be able to replicate it over time. Now, in terms of adaptability of the project, there was recently like a VMOV working group in the carbon market infrastructure of the World Bank to which we participated. And the conclusion of it was that like we not only reached perfection because we still have too many things to align, but let's try to do as much as we can and see how far we can go. And there is engagement around this promise from all the stakeholders. For instance, one of the blockers is the verifier, the DBT. At the moment, are not allowed because of the ISO certification 14065 that they have to comply with to certify information system. So you say, this is great, you build this, you receive this, but like we don't have the capability to certify the system. So we have to find like a side way, which is basically to produce for them documents, whether it's like visual on the screen or PDF, so that it can match and reach the required components to make it happen. And in terms of adaptation, I'll just read a quote from one of our software engineers with digitalized methodology, and he considered themselves as living organisms. They keep evolving, they keep improving. And what we want to support is the fact that like a lot of things are happening around the project, a lot of data is collected, and after that can be distributed in different ways. The other thing is also to say that what is important in this data collection is to have the opportunity of correlation. We don't want to have only one source of data that is supposed to reflect the truth, but multiple ones that can actually inform the level of confidence that we have in the data that we collect. So the more channels of information you have, the more close you can be to the truth. What we learn across this experience and journey with this project and others is also that, for instance, something like a sensor is not 100% level of confidence. Sensors can have issues. Sensors can be tricked also upstream to be outputting data that are not the reality. So by having the opportunity to share across our journey with other like practitioners and people from different segments of the market, which is like really, it's a leg of block. We have this understanding that like in good faith we're trying to go in the right direction. And I think it's very important to have, also the transparency that everybody does for from an operator like Sonaged to tell us like, what's really happening behind the scenes, because it can help others to understand like what's really going on. And I think that's what can foster collectively.
And regarding the capacity building, the Ministry of Environment are doing a lot of capacity building under Article 6.2. So the national stakeholders are aware on Article 6.2 framework, legal framework. So the Ministry of Environment is the focal point regarding all Article 6.2 project in Senegal. So they are doing a lot of capacity building actually. And in our side for local community, we don't start yet the capacity building with local community, we have not in this state of the project. But we have a component of the project to promote circularity or this kind of thematic risk population and local community. But actually, the legal framework is going well actually in Senegal regarding the Article 6.2.
Yes, I would like to commend the team for the job well done this time. The presentation was good, and I'm quite pleased that as a portfolio manager, one of the things you see to have put at place in aligning strategy with goals. I think this is a pride to Africa. I'm from Nigeria. The population of about 200 million people, and we are struggling to manage our waste. So this will be a good model for this region. I mean, so I'm just pleading with you that we journalize the process, we document the lessons learned, and we identify the enablers. I mean, how is that the leadership and commitment once they type in those projects? And informal change, integration, greenwashing. I think Raphael mentioned a lot about that, and I think it's something that you must focus on, because people just believe that this is a myth, this is a scam, and there's nothing. And I believe that a lot of the countries in Africa will really learn from it. Congratulations to the team, and we wish you continued success.
It's interesting you mentioned the greenwashing and the myths about carbon market. That's all important of the MRP in general, because the MRP will help to monitor the project and to prove that exactly this project will reduce emissions. So this is important, and I think that there are barriers in the Article 6.2 and high integrity in order to limit all the greenwashing you are saying and so on. So I think that we will take care of this regarding this project, and we are working. I think that Straatos will help us to work to develop indicators, and in the verification Article 6.2 project also we have a phase named verification. So verification bodies will come also to monitor and to prove that we will reduce emissions, GHG emission, and it's a climate project. So I think that yes, we will take care of this. Something regarding greenwashing.
So maybe I'll piggyback off of this topic as well as what Raphael said on the verification. And when you have these systems, the VDBs, Raphael mentioned, were not made to set up to verify technical systems. But when you start to break out the things that they are used to verify, for example, testing a sensor, testing if the data coming from that sensor is valid according to the methodology, checking to see if the digital methodology by itself is actually collecting the right data, this is all possible. And so as you break these things apart into the data source, whether it could be a sensor, but it could be a person or a system, it could be a person checking the systems, like the way stations, what we mentioned. It all makes it easier to say who said what when, where does this data come from, can I trust it? And that becomes more important because it's not just greenwashing on top of carbon, but it's also proving that the social impact, the sustainable development goals are happening as the project says they are. And I think the opportunity again is, I'm going to go back to this. Technology is just enabling efficiency of the communication of what's happening on the ground. It's helping the communities access information both as a guide, going back to the Azusa's dream, but also at the same time, not just building capacity, but it's allowing the rest of the world to better understand what is happening, what is the actual motivation. I'd argue many of the things that we call innovations here are the things that should become blueprints for the rest of the world.
Thank you. Listen, I think just to conclude, what we can build with this aggregation of data is also storytelling. These markets are suffering from a very small exposition to the world and like what is really happening and what change they bring. And I would like to invite all of you, including my co-panelists, to next talk or even before that, with like maybe a little drink around the compost bag and a celebration of how collaboration can lead to climate impact. So thank you very much, everyone.